Welcome to Cozy English Stories. Let's relax and practice English together. Today's story is about learning to be kind to ourselves. In the quiet town of Meadowbrook, nestled between rolling green hills, lived a young woman named Clara. Clara was a baker, known throughout the town for her delicious pastries and warm, crusty breads. Her little shop, the Rolling Pin, was always filled with the comforting aroma of cinnamon, vanilla, and freshly baked dough. People loved her creations, but Clara rarely felt satisfied with her own work. She was her own harshest critic. One Tuesday morning, the sun streamed through her shop window, illuminating the flour dust dancing in the air. Clara was preparing for the annual town fair, the biggest event of the year. She had decided to create a magnificent, multi-layered cake, a masterpiece she hoped would finally make her feel proud. She envisioned a cake adorned with delicate sugar flowers and intricate piping, a true work of art. For days, she worked tirelessly. She baked layer after layer of a light, fluffy sponge. She whipped up batch after batch of silky buttercream. But every time she looked at her progress, a little voice in her head would whisper criticisms. "The layers aren't perfectly even," it would say. "The buttercream isn't smooth enough. Those sugar flowers look clumsy." With each self-critical thought, Clara's shoulders would slump a little more. The day before the fair, disaster struck. As she was carefully stacking the final layer, her hand trembled slightly. The top layer slid, smudging the pristine icing and crushing a few of the delicate sugar roses she had spent hours crafting. Clara stared at the imperfect cake, and a wave of frustration and disappointment washed over her. "It's ruined," she mumbled, tears welling up in her eyes. "I've failed. Everyone will see how imperfect it is." She felt like giving up completely. Just then, Mrs. Gable, an elderly woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile, walked into the shop. She was a regular customer and had always admired Clara's work. She saw the distressed look on Clara's face and the slightly lopsided cake on the counter. "Oh, my dear," Mrs. Gable said softly. "What a beautiful cake you're making." Clara shook her head, unable to hide her disappointment. "It's a mess, Mrs. Gable. I ruined it. It's not perfect." Mrs. Gable walked closer and examined the cake. She pointed to the smudged icing. "I see a swirl like a gentle breeze passing through a garden. And these flowers," she gestured to the crushed roses, "look like they're bowing gracefully." "It tells a story, Clara, the story of a baker who poured her heart into her work." Clara looked at the cake, then back at Mrs. Gable, confused. "But it's not what I planned." "It's full of mistakes," Mrs. Gable smiled warmly. "My dear, you are so kind to everyone who comes into your shop. You offer them treats that make their day brighter. But are you ever as kind to yourself? Perfection is a cold and lonely goal. It's the little imperfections, the unique touches that give things character and warmth. This cake has character. It has your heart in it, and that's what makes it truly special." Her words hung in the air, echoing in the quiet shop. Clara looked at her creation through new eyes. She saw the effort, the passion, and the long hours she had dedicated to it. Mrs. Gable was right. She was always striving for an impossible standard, and in the process, she was forgetting to appreciate her own journey and effort. Taking a deep breath, Clara decided to embrace the cake's new, unexpected design. She didn't try to fix the smudge. Instead, she used her spatula to create more gentle swirls in the icing, making it look intentional and artistic. She rearranged the remaining sugar flowers around the crushed ones, creating a beautiful cascading effect. It wasn't the perfect cake she had imagined, but it was unique. It was hers. The next day at the fair, Clara placed her cake on the display table. She felt a flutter of nerves, but also a new sense of calm. People gathered around, admiring the cake. They didn't see flaws. They saw a beautiful rustic creation that looked inviting and delicious. A young boy pointed at it and exclaimed, "Mom, look! The flowers are dancing on the cake." Clara's cake didn't win the first place prize. That went to a technically flawless, but rather austere-looking cake. However, Clara's cake sold out within an hour. People didn't just buy a slice. They bought a piece of the story, a piece of the warmth that Clara had finally allowed herself to see in her own work. As she packed up her empty stand at the end of the day, Clara felt a deep sense of contentment she hadn't experienced before. She hadn't achieved perfection, but she had achieved something far more valuable: self-acceptance. She realized that being kind to herself wasn't about lowering her standards, but about appreciating her efforts and forgiving her mistakes. It was about treating herself with the same compassion she so freely gave to others. From that day on, things in the rolling pin felt different. The aroma of cinnamon and vanilla was now mixed with Clara's newfound confidence and joy. She still worked hard and aimed to create beautiful pastries, but she no longer chased the illusion of perfection. She found beauty in the slightly irregular shape of a croissant or the unique crackle on top of a loaf of bread. And whenever that little voice of self-criticism started to whisper, she would remember Mrs. Gable's kind words. She would take a deep breath, smile, and remind herself that her work, just like her, didn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. She learned that the most important ingredient in anything she created was a little bit of kindness, especially the kind she gave to herself. Thank you for joining me for this cozy English story. I hope it inspires you to be a little kinder to yourself today. Remember to subscribe for more stories to help you relax and improve your English. See you next time!